Hi, welcome to this channel. If you already know me, thank you for coming over, and if this is the first time you see me, I hope you stick around. Either way, let me start by introducing myself. My name is Breno, I'm 25 years old, and I was born in a little island city called Vitória in Brazil, but as you have probably noticed, I don't use my real name on this channel. In this space, you can call me Klein. That was the stage name I used a few years ago when I dabbled in some performing arts, and then it turned into a username that I used so my parents wouldn't find me on the internet and see what I was doing. These days, Christoph Klein is somewhat of an alter ego, a stronger, braver version of myself that I rely on to do these things that I'm too afraid to do alone. I'm currently on a 13-country journey that will last me approximately 2 months. I started in Lisbon because it was the first place I moved to outside of Brazil, and I lived here for nearly a decade. It's been a few years since I visited, but just like a good old friend, it feels like we never parted ways. I arrived on the 4th of May, and while I had some idea of what I wanted to do throughout these 2 months, today I found myself completely lost. Not geographically, but mentally. I had initially planned to become a travel vlogger for this period of time. I had been inspired to do this by other travel vloggers and bloggers that I follow online and thought I could do it myself too. That is, until I started doing it. After an entire day of filming things, stopping at different coffee shops to charge my phone and camera every 3 hours, and conquering my fear of talking to myself in front of strangers, I watched the footage I had shot and was utterly disappointed. One of my biggest flaws is that I always try to be good at everything, and if it doesn't work on my first try, I give up on it. The perils of a high-achieving child that grows up to become a perfectionist because he was praised only for his successful deeds and not the work that he put into achieving them. I learned that the destination was more important than the journey, so it makes sense that I would ignore all the things I've done on my first day traveling because the final product wasn't up to my standards. Another critical point was the absolute biggest punch it took on my self-esteem. Watching myself from angles I would rather forget I even have made me feel really inadequate and reconsider whether this is a possible career path for me. After all, people who become successful online tend to either be incredibly talented, have lots of money to fund their ideas, or be really attractive according to our current Western beauty standards. I have none of these qualities, not in the way that it matters anyway. I messaged my friends after having my feelings hurt by my own insecure self and asked them what they liked the most about me. What were my best qualities? Truly, I just needed a bit of a self-esteem boost. What they told me were things I already know about myself, but I needed to hear it from someone else just to reassure myself that I knew what I was capable of. I had never realized how much of my self-esteem issues had gotten in the way of my goals before, but looking back, they were the main reason why I stopped myself from taking risks without even trying. I don't find myself ugly. As a matter of fact, my friends were probably surprised by my question since I've never been shy to brag about how attractive I think I look. I heard someone say once, other people not finding you attractive doesn't stop you from being attractive. And I agree. Anyone can be attractive if they say so. But I usually find myself attractive only when I'm not moving. That sounds silly, I know. I made a TikTok a while ago and it went viral out of nowhere. And it led me to making another TikTok explaining how I make coffee. Yeah, it's a long story. I was very reluctant to post it because I always thought my voice sounded weird to other people, or they would notice that I have a lisp when saying certain words. And even though no one said anything about it, I still wondered whether it was because they didn't care or because they didn't want to be rude by commenting about it. It is even more difficult when it has to do with your appearance. Every day we're bombarded by social media posts telling us that the way we look isn't good enough. I used to follow quite a few people who were conventionally attractive, who always preached about body positivity and how you should love yourself the way you are. But after noticing how they only followed and surrounded themselves with people who looked exactly like them, I realized that you can say anything you want on the internet if it pleases enough people. I guess that's why giving out advice to other people is so much easier than following them ourselves. When I decided to create this channel, I wanted to be like other people. People who indeed inspired me and entertained me for a very long time, but people who had something I envy, and that is the fact that they found their passion and they know who they are. I tried to be like them, and even though it only lasted a day, it made me realize that I was just trying to fit into a mold that wasn't made for me. So what am I meant for? Well, if I'm being completely honest with myself, I've always known what my passions are, but because of my self-doubt and constant fear of negative criticism, I went in other directions instead, following paths that I thought would be safer or be more agreeable to those around me. I went to university, got a bachelor's and a master's in a scientific field, and despite always loving science, I knew from day one that I didn't want this passion to turn into a job. University was supposed to be my plan B, something to fall back onto in case one day my dreams didn't work and I needed a safety net. Somehow I kept digging a deeper hole, and it wasn't until 6 years later, and after working in a soul-sucking job throughout the pandemic, that I realized that I could no longer let my life be dictated by other people. Regret was knocking on my door, asking me if I had focused on my dreams during those 6 years, would I be living the life I wanted to live now instead of needing to travel the world in search of some meaning to my life? Have you ever asked yourself what makes you want to wake up every morning and go about your day? I asked myself this question so many times this past year, and every time I would have the same answer, but it never involved what I was doing in my life at that time. I woke up because I had to. I had a job I needed to be at. I asked myself today, what is my reason for waking up tomorrow? And, well, I have too many stories to share, and this is just the first one.